Hey y'all, so my name's David, and I want to start figuring out how to blacksmith. It's something that I've wanted to do for a while, but I have no clue what I'm doing, so we'll start off by saying that. But if you want to learn with me and figure it out, well, I'll be glad to have you for this journey. Today I'm going to start off by seeing if I can get this hammer cleaned up. It's just a cheap one that I got from one of my local stores. I'm going to get these edges cleaned up on here, hopefully get that front, the face on the hammer cleaned up on there also. And then I'm going to take off this lacquer on the handle. It just doesn't feel too good on there. Might just leave it plain, probably throw some oil on it. We'll see how it goes on there. I'm going to get the rust knocked off this anvil to start with, and we'll see how we go from there. Like I said, I'm just figuring it out as I go, because the phrase I'd like to say is everything's figure-outable. So, I'm glad to have you, and let's get started. Okay, so to get this started, I'm going to just throw a rag here on the handle so I don't beat it up anymore. We're going to get her locked down here in the vise. Okay, there should be a good enough angle for y'all to see it. As I said, I'm just figuring stuff out. So, safety is third, but we'll put some safety glasses on, just because there's going to be some sparks on here, I'm sure. So, I got a 120 grit flap disc on my belt grinder, or on my grinder here. So we're going to see how this goes here. Just trying to round out those rough edges on there, because it's kind of a sharp point and a little rough on there, so I just want it nice and smooth. Okay, so I got that edge close facing me pretty good, but we're gonna flip this guy around here just so I can get a better angle on this other side. And I'm pretty satisfied with that on that side. You can always get her cleaned up more as we go and use it. We're gonna flip it over here so we can get to the face of the hammer. This we're just gonna kind of flatten these corners out a little bit, make it a little bit more round shape on there. Okay, that should be a good start on there. So now we're going to get her flipped around and start knocking some of that off, some of that lacquer off that's on this handle. I'm not as worried about scratching up the head because it's just going to be a little paint on there. Okay. Okay, we're gonna flip her over there and get the other side of that handle knocked off. got that finish knocked off on there, so it's a little bit better feeling on the hand. Still some facets in there that I put in with the angle grinder, and I might just take out with some hand sanding on there. Alright, so we're gonna get some sandpaper on here and just give it a little bit better finish. I'm going to call that as good as she's going to get today. So other than that, we'll probably put some oil, maybe some boiled linseed oil on there to get it sealed up, preserve it a little bit. Did notice there was a little bit of a crack in here that I uncovered after taking that lacquer off on there. So we'll see how long this hammer lasts in this blacksmithing journey. Okay, so we got our hammer cleaned up. Now we can move on to the anvil here. I got this used at an auction. Sure, if you look around and you're in need of one, you can find one somewhere. But she's just a little rusty on there, so we're just gonna smooth out that top, knock some rust off the horn here, and then maybe we'll take a wire brush to the outside edges, knock some more of that rust off of there. But we're gonna jump right in on there. I'm gonna trade out to an 80 grit. So let's go ahead and take this off. Okay, so we got an 80 grit on our grinder now, 80 grit flap disc. So then we're just going to go ahead and knock the top off on here because it's a little rough on there also. Well, we got a fresh battery in our grinder, and I'm gonna trade out to a wire wheel on here to see how she does getting some of this rust off on there. Okay, so we stopped, had a quick bite to eat. It's getting a little late in the day on me. We're gonna knock a little bit more of this rust off, and then I might switch back over to a flap disc and see if I can knock a little bit more of it off. So, ain't nothing to it, just to do it. Go back to 180 grit. We were using on a hammer earlier. And finish off the top here. See what other spots I might want to hit on it. But after that, we're probably going to call it just about good here. Take off the biggest parts of those chunks on there. of it doesn't have to be smooth. The top is what you really want smooth, as far as my knowledge goes, at least. We'll just try and clean out the edges just a little bit on there so it looks a little prettier. Well, y'all, I think we're gonna call her good for today. We got the top of the anvil cleaned off, got the horn cleaned up, knocked off our biggest chunks of rust on there, and just got the whole thing overall a little bit nicer than it was. Flat should be nice and smooth so that it doesn't create any excessive marks in any work that we do. And then on our hammer, we got the face cleaned up and the peen cleaned up and rounded over, knocked off all those sharp edges. Handle, we got it all, the lacquer taken off of that handle so that it's a little bit nicer, smoother to hold, a little bit more comfortable in the hand. But that's going to be it for this video. I do have a forge that we're hopefully going to be opening up and unboxing in the next one and getting that all set up. But if you stuck around this long, I appreciate it. I'm sure it's maybe going to be 2 people that watched it, but hey, we'll see. But I think we're going to call it good. This is hopefully just the start of videos, and who knows what we'll get into in the future. But I appreciate your time. Have a good one.